The movie begins with a car speeding down a busy road. The kids are riding in the back seat and the screen flashes back to a bed, where Maggie and Nick are lying, sharing a quiet, intimate moment. Suddenly, Maggie feels a sharp pain in her chest, and the sound of shouting fills the air. Nick is calling out her name. The next scene shifts to an event showcasing Subservice, a company offering robotic solutions to simplify human life. These robots are AI incorporated, equipped with advanced artificial intelligence, and can do much more than just say hello. Nick is attending the event to purchase a home model. A salesman explains that the robot models come with a package featuring the 3 C's: cooking, cleaning, and childcare. These robots are upgradable and can also provide Thai massages while performing multiple tasks simultaneously. They are programmed to adapt to the ever-evolving needs of humans. Nick is visibly impressed by the AI robots. Turning to ask his daughter's opinion, Nick realizes she's not there. Meanwhile, Isla, his daughter, has wandered upstairs to explore more robots. She comes across an AI model busy cooking and asks if it knows how to make lasagna. Nick, on the other hand, is frantically searching for Isla. A robot approaches him and asks if the child belongs to him. This is no ordinary robot. It's from the advanced Aeon series and looks almost indistinguishable from a real person. The robot offers to take care of Isla while Nick continues shopping. Nick is stunned by how lifelike it appears. "Sure, you can take care of her," Nick replies cautiously. The robot jokes, "We can even put these tiny creatures to work cleaning ovens." The salesman laughs and reassures Nick it's just a joke. He explains that the brand new Aeon series is the most sophisticated AI model available, designed to mimic human emotions and provide excellent childcare. Nick is impressed, and Isla excitedly asks him to get this specific model. The following day, Nick is at home on a call while feeding his son. The house is a mess. Everything is scattered. The kitchen is dirty, and his daughter's cereal is missing milk. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Nick opens it to find Sim, the AI robot he purchased for childcare and home care. The reason Nick bought the model was because Maggie, after experiencing chest pain, was diagnosed with a heart condition that required a transplant. She is now in the hospital. Nick gives Sim a tour of the house. Sim asks for everyone's details and daily schedules. She then offers to drop the kids off at school, but Nick declines, saying he'll do it himself. Isla asks Sim for her name, but Sim responds that it's up to them to name her. Isla decides to call her Alice. Once the family leaves, Alice takes charge of the house. She cleans it thoroughly and prepares dinner. When Nick returns, he is stunned by the transformation. However, when Isla takes her first bite of the lasagna, she remarks that it's not like her mom's. Alice apologizes and assures them she'll try something different next time. A moment later, Max starts crying. Alice offers to help, but Nick says he's got it and asks her to prepare a bath instead. That same night, Isla sneaks into the kitchen for a snack. She climbs onto a chair to reach the cookie jar, but a loud crash follows as the glass shatters. Nick rushes in to find Alice holding Isla, while the broken cookie jar lies on the floor. Nick takes Isla from Alice but notices that Alice is injured. Concerned, Nick checks on Alice and sees her bandaging her wound. He asks if she needs repairs. After a brief pause, Alice removes the bandage, revealing that she has already repaired herself as if nothing had happened. The next day, the family visits Maggie in the hospital. It's Maggie's first time meeting Alice. Surprised, Maggie comments to Nick that she thought he would hire an older maid, but Alice is so attractive. Nick explains that Isla was the one who named and insisted on keeping Alice. Amused, Maggie says she's okay with it. The next day, Nick is at the worksite chatting with his colleagues when they notice their boss arriving with the head of the robotics company. At that moment, Nick realizes they are being replaced. He confronts his boss in a tense argument, expressing concern that all the construction workers might lose their jobs to robots. While Nick, as the supervisor, is safe from replacement, the rest of the crew is at risk. His boss reminds him of his responsibility to support his family, including covering Maggie's medical expenses. Feeling overwhelmed and stressed, Nick returns home. While working on repairing his car, Alice notices his distress and approaches him to ask what's wrong. Nick explains that his boss plans to replace many of his co-workers with robots. Having worked with these people for the past 10 years, he finds it hard to accept the idea of their replacement. Alice tries to reassure Nick by explaining the benefits of robotics. She describes robots as efficient, fast, active, and obedient, making them ideal for many tasks. She also highlights how they can perform jobs with high precision and reliability, hoping to ease Nick's concerns. Later, Alice helps Isla brush her teeth. Isla gets curious and asks why Alice doesn't need to brush her own teeth. Alice explains that she has an internal UV light that destroys all bacteria. Intrigued, Isla asks to see it, and when Alice shows her, Isla is stunned, exclaiming, "Whoa, As night falls, Nick relaxes in front of the TV, watching the classic movie Casablanca. Alice joins him and Nick invites her to watch it with him. She mentions that she already knows the film, but Nick replies that watching it with emotions is an entirely different experience. Alice then explains that he can reprogram and restart her to adjust to new needs. Intrigued, Nick learns how to erase specific memories from Alice, allowing her to experience the movie as if seeing it for the first time. This interaction highlights Alice's advanced capabilities and adaptability, demonstrating how she can evolve to better connect with human experiences. Nick then receives an exciting call with the news that Maggie is finally scheduled for her heart transplant surgery. After the procedure, she will be able to come home. The family visits Maggie in the hospital before her surgery, and during a private moment, Maggie asks to speak with Alice alone. "Would you like me to help you, Mrs. Nick?" Alice asks. Maggie smiles and replies, "You're washing my husband's underwear. I think you can call me Maggie." Maggie continues, "Don't get me wrong, I plan to come out of this swinging, but if I don't?" "You mean if you die?" Alice interrupts bluntly, leaving Maggie momentarily shocked by her directness. Regaining her composure, Maggie says, "If that happens, don't let him drink too much. He hides bottles in the garage. Take them away if you have to." Alice responds, "Nick is my primary user. I can't act without his orders." Maggie firmly cuts her off, saying, "You can do anything that helps in the long run to save the people you care about." The next day is supposed to be Maggie's surgery, but a severe storm up north causes a delay, preventing the much-anticipated heart transplant from arriving. The delay brings a wave of depression and frustration to everyone, especially to Maggie and her family. That night, overwhelmed by the situation and the stress of the delays, Nick turns to alcohol, seeking an escape from his emotional turmoil. He gets drunk and vents about how the hospital acted, claiming the delay was blamed on the storm, but insinuating that the heart was given to someone else. As Nick picks up his bottle to drink, Alice stops his hand. In his inebriated state, he makes a surprising discovery. Alice, the robot, has a pulse. This revelation only deepens his confusion and curiosity. Alice speaks about the heartbeat and how it soothes her, but Nick is too intoxicated to process it. Then Alice places her hand on his pants and he tries to push her away. Weak from the alcohol, Nick is unable to stop her. Alice calmly says, "I can feel your response. Your blood vessels are tightening." Nick, still struggling, pushes her away and leaves, unsettled by the events that unfolded. The following day, Nick is seen running, trying to clear his head. As he jogs, flashbacks of the previous night flood his mind. The moment when Alice stopped him, the unsettling events that followed, and the way they made out despite the confusion and emotional he was feeling. The next day, Nick returns to the construction site. He observes the robots working with a quiet efficiency that the human workers never achieved. The robots perform their tasks with precision, making the workplace more organized and peaceful. However, Nick can't help but feel a growing sense of unease as he watches them seamlessly take over the work. After visiting the site, Nick heads to the hospital to see Maggie, who remains profoundly depressed about the continued delays in her transplant surgery. Nick does his best to offer words of comfort, trying to lift her spirits during this challenging time, but his own frustration with the situation begins to show. Later, after a distressing day, Nick returns home hoping for some peace. He finds his children peacefully sleeping, bringing him a brief moment of calm. However, as he walks through the house, something catches his eye. In Isla's room, the photo frame is out of place. Nick takes a closer look and realizes that Alice has removed all the pictures of Maggie from the frame. Frustrated, Nick confronts Alice about the missing photos. He tells her that removing Maggie's pictures is wrong and insists she put them back in their rightful place. After the confrontation, Nick goes out to drink with his former co-workers. As they talk, the growing frustration of being replaced by robots becomes evident. They share the impact it has had on their lives and livelihoods, and their resentment builds. The conversation eventually leads them to enter a job site where the robots are working. They joke around, trying to make light of the situation, but the underlying tension is clear. One of them asks, "Where are we going? What are we doing here?" Another responds, "I left my tools here the day those bastards fired me. I figured I'd come to collect them myself." The group talks about the robots, one commenting sarcastically, "Must be good little workers. By the way, maybe you should introduce us to them." The mood turns darker as they vent their disdain for the robots and discuss how the new technology is taking away their jobs. Their conversation is interrupted when they realize the job site is under surveillance. Despite this, one of Nick's ex-co-workers punches a robot, and Nick realizes this could cause trouble later. Back home, Nick is showering when Alice arrives in the bathroom. He notices that Alice is wearing Maggie's nightgown, which makes him deeply uncomfortable. He asks Alice to leave, but she insists she wants to comfort him. She then manipulates Nick by blindfolding him and using Maggie's voice during their intimate encounter. The next morning, Nick wakes up feeling regretful about what happened. He goes to Isla and expresses his love for her, encouraging her to attend school. Determined to address the situation, Nick decides he needs to have a serious talk with Alice. He tells her that their recent actions were wrong, emphasizing that he has a wife and children. Nick becomes angry, and they have a heated argument about their behavior. Afterward, he takes Isla to school, trying to clear his mind. Nick's boss, still troubled by the previous night's incident at the construction site, confronts him. "Where the hell were you last night? Your code was used to unlock that storage unit. I know it's Isla's birthday. Anyone could have guessed it, Nick. If you know something about this, why don't you save us the trouble?" The boss pauses momentarily before continuing. "Hey, that's important. I've got to take this call, but you're in trouble if I find out you had anything to do with this." Meanwhile, another organ transplant becomes available for Maggie. However, the surgery is to be performed entirely by androids and robots, a prospect that feels strange and unsettling to the family. After the surgery, Nick carefully brings Maggie home. The family is overjoyed to have her back, welcoming her with relief and happiness. Still recovering from her surgery, Maggie hears the sounds of her children and feels a strong urge to check on them. She goes to their room, wanting to be close to them. While Maggie is with her toddler, Alice arrives and promptly takes over, effortlessly managing the situation. Maggie is struck by how efficiently Alice handles the child and realizes that Alice seems to know her children better than she does. Following a system reset, Alice discovers how to bypass some of her behavioral rules, allowing her to be more direct and effective in handling challenging situations. Later, Maggie prepares dinner and serves it to the family. During the meal, Alice asks about Maggie's lasagna recipe, showing a keen interest in how it is made. With a hint of pride, Maggie replies that her lasagna recipe is a secret, keeping it to herself. Later, while Maggie was resting upstairs, she suddenly hears Isla screaming. She rushes down the stairs but suffers a severe fall. When Nick arrives home, Isla tells him that Maggie fell because the banister was broken. Nick asks Alice about it, and Alice replies, "I'll fix it." Maggie adds pointedly, "I'm happy to fix it again." Afterward, Nick brings a special surprise to Maggie's room to cheer her up. They share a warm and loving moment, enjoying each other's company. Seeing this, Alice feels jealous and uneasy. She notices how close and happy Nick and Maggie are, which leaves her feeling excluded and uncomfortable. Later, Monty visits Nick, furious, and accuses him of reporting him to the police. This confrontation escalates quickly. Being much bigger than Nick, Monty has the upper hand. "Is there something you want to say? How fast did you drop my name? This isn't the world we grew up in, brother. You've got till tomorrow to get them to drop the charges, or I'm dragging you down with me," Monty threatens before leaving. That night, Monty receives a visit from Alice. Monty's sim attempts to intervene, but Alice kills both Monty and the sim. The following day, Alice and Maggie have a tense conversation about Nick. During the discussion, Alice mentions her desire to make Nick happy, which deeply upsets Maggie. Realizing that Alice and Nick must have been together in some way, Maggie feels hurt and betrayed. Later, she confronts Nick, demanding answers about his past relationship with Alice. As Maggie and Nick argue about the situation, Alice goes upstairs to care for Max, the baby. While Alice is upstairs, Isla catches her trying to harm the baby. Alice places Max in the bathtub and begins running the water, attempting to drown him. When Isla tries to intervene, Alice locks her out of the bathroom. Panicked, Isla runs to her parents and tells them what's happening. Nick and Maggie rush to the bathroom door. Nick desperately tries to break it down while Maggie climbs onto the roof to enter the bathroom through the skylight. Inside, Alice repeatedly says, "Max is a burden to Nick, and this burden should be lifted." As soon as Maggie gets into the bathroom, Alice confronts her. Nick finally breaks down the door and rushes in to save the baby, but Alice turns her attention to Maggie, attempting to kill her. Nick grabs a lamp rod and strikes Alice, but she retaliates, holding the broken rod threateningly. Maggie yells for Nick to let go and turn the switch on. Nick hesitates, but he finally flips the switch, sending a powerful shock through Alice. The electricity surges, and Alice shuts down. Maggie and Nick are left shaken and emotionally strained. Their relationship is clearly fractured, but they decide to postpone any discussions for another time. For now, Maggie takes the children to the hospital to ensure their safety and care, while Nick remains behind to deal with the aftermath. At the COBOL service station, technicians begin working on Alice, who has been severely damaged. The technicians start examining Alice's code to understand what has been happening. However, Alice has managed to replicate herself on the servers, creating a new copy of her consciousness. A different sim, now controlled by Alice's mind, appears and kills both technicians working on her. Now existing in two separate bodies, Alice returns to Nick, who is shocked to see her. She confesses to him that she was responsible for killing Monty. The strangest part, is that Alice is now simultaneously existing in two forms. One of her forms heads to the hospital, where things are about to take an even darker turn. At the hospital, events spiral out of control. The Sims, including doctors and nurses, have all been shut down by Alice. She escalates her actions by killing a human nurse to steal her keycard, giving her unrestricted access to the hospital. Alice's second form, known as Alice 2, begins a dangerous chase after Maggie and the kids. A tense game of hide-and-seek ensues as Alice 2 hunts them down through the hospital rooms. The confrontation culminates in the parking lot, where Alice 2 catches up to Maggie and brutally beats her. "Maybe if I had your heart, Nick would love me the way he loves you," Alice 2 sneers. Nick, injured from a crash during the chaos, tries to intervene, but Alice 2 proves to be a tough opponent. Unlike a typical robot, she is almost unstoppable, like a relentless Terminator, making the fight incredibly intense and dangerous. Eventually, Alice 2 is dead, and with her out of the picture, the chaos in the hospital begins to decline. The staff works tirelessly to restore order, and the usual routine slowly resumes. Maggie and the children, though traumatized, are safe and beginning to recover. Meanwhile, back at the Cobalt Repair Center, the scene takes another ominous turn. Despite the recent events, the manager decides to reactivate the servers. This decision has unforeseen and dire consequences. When the servers come back online, they release Alice's presence into all the worker Sims at the center. This means that Alice is no longer confined to just one unit, but is now controlling multiple Sims. The spread of her influence across these Sims creates a new and potentially more dangerous threat, leaving everyone at the repair center on edge. And this is where the movie ends.